I woke up to the sound of heavy machinery chewing up my creek, and for a split second I thought I was still dreaming. Then I looked out my bedroom window and saw 5 men in orange vests drilling wooden supports straight into the water my grandfather used to fish in. And that's how I learned that apparently, if you build a park badly enough, you can just try to annex your neighbor's land before breakfast. My name's Jacob Donovan, and I own 5 acres in rural Madison County, Arkansas. Land has been in my family since 1952. Rolling hills, thick woods, and a clear little creek that runs right through the middle like it belongs there, because it does. That creek is my favorite place on earth. I've sat on its banks more evenings than I can count, watching the light fade, listening to water slide over smooth stones, thinking about nothing and everything at the same time. So when I saw a mini excavator parked in it, yeah, I didn't take that well. I didn't even bother with boots. Just jeans, a t-shirt, and bare feet slapping dirt as I ran down toward the noise. The foreman, big guy, hard hat, chewing something, glanced at me like I was interrupting his lunch break. HOA project, he said. We're building a pedestrian bridge. Over my creek. On my land. Like it was a public sidewalk. I told him to shut it down. He shrugged. Said they had a work order. I called the sheriff. Deputy Williams showed up 20 minutes later, calm, steady, the kind of guy who doesn't raise his voice because he doesn't need to. I handed him my deed, my surveys, tax records, the whole paper trail. He studied it, then walked over and told the crew to pack up. Watching that excavator back out my creek felt good, but the half-built skeleton of that bridge stayed there like a middle finger made of lumber. That afternoon, she arrived. Susan Patterson, white BMW SUV, designer sunglasses. Smile like she was doing me a favor by trespassing. President of the Meadowbrook Hills HOA, 300 families strong. She made sure I knew that. We assumed you'd be cooperative, she said sweetly, like I'd forgotten my manners. They'd built a park on the other side of my creek, landlocked, and decided the most convenient solution was to build across my property. Without asking, she offered me $500 for a permanent easement. $500. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because sometimes your brain short-circuits when someone insults you that cleanly. I told her no. I told her remove the materials. I told her if they wanted access, they could negotiate properly, legally. She told me I was being unreasonable. That's when I knew it wasn't about a bridge. It was about control. The lawyer letters started within a week. Thick envelopes full of words that meant nothing without rights to back them up. So I hired my own lawyer, Patricia Hughes, sharp, calm, terrifying in the best way. She confirmed what I already knew. They didn't have a leg to stand on. If anything, they'd made it worse by trespassing. We gave them 7 days to remove their half-built mess. They didn't. So on day 7, I called my friend Marcus, who runs a construction company. Saturday morning, we pulled that thing out piece by piece. 3 hours. Clean. Professional. I piled the materials neatly at the edge of my property with a sign that said, HOA Materials, call Susan Patterson. She called that night, screaming about the $15,000 they'd spent. You built it on land you don't own, I said calmly. That's on you. I sent them a bill for removal costs. And that's when the real show started. Sunday afternoon, Susan showed up with 20 residents holding signs. Think of the children, community over selfishness. They stood on the public road, chanting like I was some kind of land baron hoarding a gold mine instead of protecting a creek. I walked down my driveway and told them they were free to protest, just not step on my land. One guy asked what it would take, so I gave him a number. $50,000 for the easement, $10,000 for creek restoration, legal fees, written apology. They gasped like I'd asked for a kidney. Then drive the extra 2 miles, I said. Over the next few weeks, things turned ugly. Mailbox spray-painted selfish. Truck tires slashed. Anonymous letters calling me greedy. Someone tried sneaking onto my property at 2 a.m. with lumber. My security cameras caught it. Deputy Williams arrested 3 of them. HOA residents. The local paper picked up the story. Reporter named Jennifer Walsh came out to interview me. Smart, direct, fair. I showed her everything. The vandalism, the police reports, the footage. The article ran 3 days later. Public opinion split, but the facts were there. They had trespassed. They had built without securing access. And here's where the twist happened. Not dramatic like in movies, but quiet and decisive. 2 weeks after the article ran, someone tried rebuilding the bridge again. Fresh holes drilled into my creek bed. This time, Deputy Williams didn't just arrest contractors. He arrested Susan. Watching her in handcuffs, shouting about community good, was surreal. Not triumphant, just surreal. Like watching arrogance finally trip over reality. The next day, I got a call from Gary Thornton, the HOA treasurer. We met at a coffee shop. He looked exhausted. "She's been suspended," he said. "We're hemorrhaging money. Legal fees. Insurance issues. Residents are furious." They'd already spent over $30,000 fighting me, plus the wasted bridge, plus legal defense for Susan. "We'll meet your terms," he said. $60,000 total. Legal fees paid. Written apology. Restraining order against Susan. Mandatory mediation clause. I studied him for a long moment. And here's something I didn't expect to learn in all this. Most conflicts aren't really about land. They're about pride. The minute pride leaves the room, solutions walk in. We signed 13 days later. Susan resigned from the board. Criminal charges moved forward. She got probation, community service, restitution, and a court order to stay off my land. The new HOA board rebuilt the bridge properly. They called before starting, introduced themselves, worked carefully, restored the creek bed. And I'll tell you something that surprised me. The finished bridge? It's actually nice. Blends into the woods. Clean lines. Solid railings. One afternoon, I was fishing under it when a kid ran across and waved. "Thank for the bridge, mister." He didn't know the lawsuits, the vandalism, the arrests. To him, it was just a way to get to the park. And that's when something shifted in me. Property rights aren't about being stubborn. They're about making sure respect exists. If you let people take because it's convenient, they'll keep taking. But if they ask, if they negotiate, if they treat you like an equal, you might be surprised how reasonable you can be. The $60,000 covered creek restoration, legal fees, and upgrades to my workshop. I even placed a conservation easement on part of the land to protect the creek long-term. Jennifer and I started dating after the article. Funny how life works. We got engaged standing on that same bridge at sunset. A year later, I walked the property perimeter like I always do. Crossed the bridge. Watched families using it. Watched my creek flowing underneath, clear and undisturbed. Justice, I realized, doesn't always look like someone losing everything. Sometimes it looks like balance being restored. Susan lost her position, her reputation, and a chunk of her savings. The HOA learned expensive lessons about boundaries. I got compensated fairly and kept my dignity. No one won, but fairness showed up. And here's the question that still lingers with me. If I had just rolled over that first morning, let them build without a fight, would any of this have ended well? Or would it have taught everyone watching that property rights are optional if you have enough votes? Where's the line between being a good neighbor and being a doormat? I stood my ground. It cost me months of stress, but it also changed how that entire HOA handles power. So I'll ask you, what would you have done? Would you have taken the $500 and avoided the war, or would you have fought it all the way to the courtroom? Drop your thoughts below. I'm genuinely curious. And if you've ever had a neighbor, an HOA, or anyone try to push past your boundaries, share that story too. Because sometimes the smallest bridge reveals the biggest truth about who we are.